Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the engineering session. I am Jan Kester. I'm a regional associate director for admissions, and I'd like to introduce our speaker today. Dr. Mike Thompson is with us. He's a professor and the associate dean for undergraduate admissions, and he's going to tell us all about Baylor today.
Thank you. And great that you can be here. Are you able to see my screen? I just want to make sure.
You can, yes.
Okay, good.
But actually, we're seeing some stuff behind it, though, too.
Let me try that again. Let me
Okay.
just. How about now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, good. Well, welcome. My name is Mike Thompson. I'm, hang on, I'm getting this working. I'm a professor in electrical and computer engineering and also the associate dean for undergraduate programs. I'm glad you're with us today. I have, they've given me 15 minutes. I could talk about this for a long time, and I'm a professor kind of programmed to speak in 50-minute increments. So I'm going to tell you about our programs in about 15 minutes, and then hopefully we can open up some time for questions. So I wanted to start with some of the highlights. These are the main points I'm trying to get across. First of all, why Baylor? And I think the Christian mission of Baylor definitely rises to the top. If you come to Baylor, you will definitely experience the caring Christian community that we have. Another feature that we like to talk about is we have world-class faculty that are drawn to this Christian mission to do research and teach in our classes. And we have small class sizes. We'll talk more in detail about that later. We have an intentional approach for getting that first job or getting into graduate school. We'll talk about how we set you up for success later on in the presentation. We also have an approach where you have an academic advisor that walks alongside you. These are rigorous majors, and sometimes you need a little help navigating your way through that. And we're really proud of the way we have that set up for helping you through that. And then the next thing on my list is we want to get you off to a great start. So we have this new student experience course that helps you make this transition from high school to college, and not only just college, but college with some majors that require a pretty good level of study and planning and time management and those kind of things. I know a lot of you would be interested in undergraduate research opportunities. The exciting thing about where we are in our development and in engineering at Baylor is that we recently added PhD programs in 2010. So we've been ramping up our graduate programs, and you might think, well, I'm thinking about undergraduate school. What's that have to do for me? And the answer is because we've ramped up these programs, we've attracted some bright young faculty members that are here because of the Christian mission of the university and are great researchers, and they're looking to recruit graduate students. And so one of the best sources for graduate students is our own undergraduates. And so they will be actively looking to involve you in undergraduate research opportunities. I also am going to tell you a little bit about student organizations and the way to get involved there. And we're just going to go through this list and get going with our presentation. So the very first slide I have, I love the far side. This is a picture of presumably scientists, and they say, face it, we're not really exactly rocket scientists. So the reason I mention this is because there is a difference between science and mathematics. With science, you have a hypothesis and you go through experimental processes to try to, verify or disprove your hypothesis. Mathematicians have a certain level of rigor that they like to work with, but ultimately engineers, we're looking to build things and make them work, okay? And so we pull from ideas and concepts and theories from science, and we apply math techniques to make all these things happen, and we're able to put these things together and actually make things work, all right? So I have listed here other professions because other professions have their own little contribution that they make to the world. And we, as engineers, kind of draw from all of these things because we understand there has to be some business aspect. We have some legal responsibilities and moral and ethical responsibilities to make safe products. And then we can just be creative and make things work that help contribute to society. So that's the next thing I wanted to talk about. I know that when I think of creative professions, my initial thoughts go to things like, photography and music and dance and those kind of creative things that everybody agrees that's a creative profession. But I believe that God has instilled in each of us the desire to be creative and to try to figure out how to use our God-given talents, like you might have a God-given talent for science and mathematics, so you can use that in creative ways to solve some of the world problems. Okay, so that's one thing that I want you to think about as you consider a field like engineering. So along the way, when you come to Baylor, you get involved with sort of this cycle of creativity where we work together in teams, we brainstorm ideas, we learn about hands-on things in the classroom. We do, you take your undergraduate courses in science and mathematics and use those and pull those together to come up with things that help you make a design that produces a solution. So it's a great experience. And it's just when you're looking for that ultimate career, what you want is something that you can employ your creativity and you do an interesting job. And that's what engineering gives you. Okay, the next thing I want to do, I remember when I was considering engineering, I didn't know exactly what engineers did. And I think that one thing that I could do is walk you through some pictures of where engineering is used in the world. So it's basically ubiquitous. You see it everywhere, but there's certain problems that may resonate with you. For example, power and energy. Right now I care a great deal about the climate, and we're looking at how can we get away from such dependency on fossil fuels and carbon and try to come up with cleaner solutions for energy. And so things that are under consideration are solar and wind, and how do you integrate that into the grid? Those are challenging problems, and it turns out we have some world-class people working on this and things like electric cars here at Baylor. So that's an emerging area that's going to continue to draw interest and might resonate with you. We also I've had lots of students that are interested in things like aerospace and robotics. So I have this picture here that shows a control system, and it's using some math. If you took a calculus class, you might have seen an integral sign. And so I wanted to impress upon you that you take these ideas in mathematics and you come up with ways to do, like, control a robot arm or control how a jet aircraft flies through the atmosphere. Those are exciting areas to work on. Mechanical engineering, of course, there's turbines and jets and 3D additive printing that lets you come up with a crazy design using maybe finite element analysis and actually implement that design by printing it up. Just a fantastic time that you can have in mechanical engineering. There's lots of new jobs coming open in that kind of field. I like to have a picture here of 5G. My background is a communications engineer, where I work on things that involve things like cell phones. And you've probably heard 5G is coming. We're rolling that out. It's going to be a lot more bandwidth and a lot less latency, which opens up all kinds of new applications and industrial applications that you can use and come up with jobs in those areas. So that's an emerging field as well. You already know about computers and digital systems. Of course, there's biomedical applications that can be related to that in the way of instruments like an EKG or an MRI. All those kind of things show up in biomedical applications. And then you may realize your microwave oven, for example, has a microprocessor in it. So any place that you go, cars, whatever, you will see embedded systems that use engineering. And then we have to interface with the mechanical side of that to make everything work. So fantastic opportunities in that area as well. So those are just a few things to mention. I want to open your eyes that there's just lots of opportunities to work on some creative things in engineering and computer science as well. So I often get the question, what does it take to become an engineer? And what I would hope that you would have is an interest in, how does that work? Have you ever taken apart something to take a look at it and see if you can figure out how it might work? Hopefully you'd be good with mathematics, because there's a lot of that involved with all engineering disciplines. You need to be able to apply areas of science into engineering as well. And then if you've got an interest in working with computers, all engineers end up working with computers. Sometimes we end up programming computers. And so that's another area that you might be interested in as well. Technology in general, if you're interested in that, that's a good sign that you might have the aptitude to be an engineer. And then I've mentioned before, this creative process of design. These days, the problems are big enough where you have to work on teams and be able to communicate your ideas. And so those are the things that can set you up for success in the field of engineering. Okay, I'm also often asked about what does it take to start engineering at Baylor? And what we really ask is that you be pretty good at the pre-calculus level of math. So some students are worried, oh, my high school didn't offer calculus. Or maybe you didn't get to calculus in your high school curriculum. No worries. What we want you to be able to do is be solid with your pre-calculus skills so that you're ready to go in that first math calculus course, and that sets you up for engineering. We also like to see a background in science and physics, well, in science with physics and chemistry on your transcript. Although if you feel like, oh, I'm not feeling real strong in those areas, those classes sort of start at the beginning. It's good to have seen it before in high school, but you'll be fine working your way through that. And then there's the normal English things that you see, and you'll be all set up for success at Baylor. Next, I wanted to dive in a little bit about the undergraduate programs that we have within the School of Engineering and Computer Science. First of all, starting with electrical and computer engineering. Right now, we have both of those tied together. So you go through the degree program and you get an accredited degree in these two areas, electrical and computer. We are working on separating out computer engineering as a separate option. Some people are a little more interested in computer engineering and the intersection with computer engineering and computer science. So we're coming up with a degree program that should be up and running in the next couple of years that breaks out computer engineering. The next one on my list is a Bachelor of Science degree in engineering. And let me tell you about the philosophy for that. Many times, a person or a student will want to come in and they have an ultimate career goal that does not necessarily involve the day-to-day practice of engineering. So one example of that would be, say you want to become a physician. All right, you're going to end up going to med school, but pre-med is not a major. You still need a major. So you could see where that would work out well if you do a Bachelor of Science in Engineering with a biomedical specialization as well. A lot of med schools are like the mentality, the problem-solving skills of engineers, and that gives you a leg up into getting into med school. Another option that we sometimes see is that a student might want to become a patent attorney. All right, so the day-to-day practice would be more of being a lawyer, working on patents. But you can see where if you had a technical degree background, you take engineering and one of the concentrations that would set you up well for that kind of career goal. Now, you should also know that the engineering degree program, what it does is it carves out a little bit of space for other areas like the pre-med courses or the pre-law courses or whatever minor that you might want to plug in there. But it's still deep enough to where you get an accredited degree in engineering and you are prepared for the day-to-day practice of engineering. So the options we have within engineering are biomedical, environmental, geopetrol, and humanitarian. And you can also pair this degree program with any minor that makes sense. So for example, we've had some students that have paired film and digital media. So you have this creative aspect of film and digital media that also requires some underlying technical skills. And if you have an engineering degree, that positions you well for that industry. Next up on my list is mechanical engineering, Bachelor of Science, mechanical engineering. And so we offer a traditional program in that, and to tell you the truth, that's our most popular major. Okay, I know this is an engineering session, but I wanted to mention the computer science side of the house. We have two things under the category of informatics. One is called bioinformatics, which is the intersection of biology and genetics with computer science. Those are a natural fit, lets you do things like explore new designs on drug treatments using technical things that you learn from computer science. We also have a new major in data science. Data science is an emerging field that shows up across all kinds of disciplines. It's not quite as rigorous in terms of the programming requirements that you would need to have. And so a lot of students are interested in this new data science major that we have. Then we have traditional computer science, where you can just do a straight up computer science degree, or you could add in a cybersecurity concentration or a software engineering concentration. So that's a quick summary of the majors that we have within our school. Here's a snapshot of the enrollment statistics. So the current ECS enrollment is 970 students with about 850, a little less than 850 undergraduates. Average class size is 22. Our female, we're always trying to get that up closer to 50%, but we're a little higher than the national average on female, and then our minority population's at 34.5%. So you will see a diverse student body, and we really think that's an important feature. Another thing that you'd be looking at when you're trying to decide which school to go to is the faculty. So one of the distinctives here at Baylor is we have world-class faculty that have come to Baylor because they resonate with the Christian mission of the university. They're good researchers, but then they also have a heart for teaching. And so I think that's a really big plus for our program. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that we want you to have hands-on experience. So we try to build that in from the beginning. So here's some pictures from our freshman course where students are jumping right in and getting involved with design. Okay, so we do that in many of our classes. We have formal experiences in a class called junior design. And so if you're really curious, you should Google Baylor Junior Design. You get to see all kinds of really cool looking designs that were done in this class. You work in small teams and you solve interesting problems and come up with some great looking contraptions that do fantastic things. Our students love this kind of experience. On the senior level side, we try to do a substantial capstone project that kind of pulls everything that you've learned in your classes together to solve some important engineering problem. Many of the times these have some kind of practical application, like here's a Baylor utility vehicle that's used in third world countries, can navigate all kinds of different terrains and has a lot of functionality that the user of this particular vehicle would want to have. Okay, so that's been a great project for us. Sometimes our projects are oriented towards humanitarian interests. So here's an example of a wheelchair that was designed by the engineers in our school for this little girl, customized wheelchair. Many times though, we have industry sponsors that are looking at solving a problem that they care about. So they donate some money, somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, work with our students, senior design engineering student teams, and come up with solutions that way as well. So we're really proud of our senior design experience. You've probably heard a lot throughout the premiere about the Baylor community, and that's a big, strong point of emphasis for us. We work hard to integrate our engineering students within the Baylor community and develop community through things like the Teal Residential College. So that's an important aspect as well. You'll get the chance to get involved with student activities, both on the professional level. So we have these professional societies like IEEE, ASME, SWE, NSBE, SAE, lots of places to contribute professionally, help build that resume. We also offer, a lot of students are very interested in this, combining their technical skills with their Christian commitment. So we have an organization called Engineers with a Mission. It's probably, I would argue that's our most popular organization. And so there's local mission things that you can do, but we also have mission trips that we've taken in the past that slowed down a little bit in the pandemic. We're looking to ramp that back up in the near future. So I have a couple of pictures of those. Here's a Haiti trip in 2018. So they're looking at installing a solar installation on a hospital roof. And so you have to come up with the right analysis to make sure the solar panel is in the right place. And so you have that kind of opportunity. The next thing I want to point out quickly is a lot of times students are interested in some type of design competition. On the electrical engineering side, we've had the IEEE robotics team that it was very successful in one of the recent events. So you get the chance to take what you know, interact with other schools, compete, and hopefully win. On the mechanical side, we have Baylor Baja. So you design this vehicle that's supposed to undergo different terrain challenges and different design criteria, again, in a competition. Next up, I wanted to talk about, our ultimate goal here is to get you out and get you successfully placed in that job that you want, or possibly graduate school. So one of the unique features of Baylor is we have an ECS Career Center that's located right within our Rogers Engineering building. We have a couple of professional staff that, there's an office there. They have snacks and candy, and you can come in there and interact and ask questions about how to get that career path on the right trajectory to get that job. So we have a 4-year professional development plan that you'll go through the curriculum and participate in that. We are small enough to be able to offer this kind of personalized attention, but yet we're large enough to where we attract, last time we had over 300 employers at our career fair. Our employers tell us we love to hire Baylor students because you're so well trained in both the technical aspects, but also the community experience helps build your ability to work on teams and to communicate and all the things that employers need for you to be able to do. So statistics wise, we have a 94% success rate on placement. And the engineering profession, not only is it great in terms of being able to do an interesting job, but you end up with a pretty reasonably high paying job. So the average salary, almost $77,000. The sign-on bonus is averaging close to $10,000. So that's great news for our graduates. I mentioned the possibility of graduate school. It's something you should consider because it opens up doors for even more interesting jobs. Different avenues that you can pursue with graduate degrees. All right, so here's a picture of some outstanding schools that Baylor students have been able to springboard their undergraduate education and move on into graduate school. Of course, we have our own graduate program that we're trying to attract you to as well. Here's a graphic that shows some of the typical employers that have hired our students. These are the big names. There's also smaller companies that are definitely interested in Baylor ECS students. Okay, so that's a summary of our program. At this point, I think I'd like to stop the presentation and we can take some questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Dr. Thompson. Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Samball, and I serve as the Senior Director for Undergraduate Programs in the School of Engineering and Computer Science. And I'm going to help Dr. Thompson facilitate our Q&A today. So Dr. Thompson, just to kind of start off, will you talk a little bit about our pre-engineering approach? What is it? Why do we have it? And when do students declare their major?
Yeah, sure. Great. Well, what we found is that many times a student comes to us and they're interested in engineering, but they haven't quite narrowed down what that specific discipline would be. All right. And so you come in as a pre-engineering major, and then the first year of the curriculum, you're working on some skills that all engineers need. So you take intro classes in engineering, Introduction to Engineering 1301 and 1302. And you get a little taste of what it's like to solve an electrical engineering problem. And then how do you work on this little microcontroller? And because that's what computer engineers do. And then how do you build this trust system and analyze whether it's going to hold up in a bridge? That's what our mechanical engineering students do. And so along the way, you get a taste of what you like, and you can make that declaration of the major after you finish that first freshman year and enter the sophomore year. We do want you to not languish within our majors. I think it's well known, engineering across the board, they're more rigorous majors. And so we have a setup where you need to make a B or better in those first two classes. And sometimes that's a little intimidating, a little scary. But let me tell you, we've designed this to where hopefully participating in the intro classes, it's hands-on. You get to work with your friends and student teams. And while there's a lot to do, typically if engineering is your calling, you would be interested in doing, and it doesn't seem so much like work. Okay, I wouldn't call it play, but it doesn't seem like just a ton of work. And so we get you through that. And then I have to admit, we realize not everybody's going to be placed initially in the correct calling. All right. So it's not unusual students to say, oh, that was a fun class, but I think that I've learned that I don't want to be an engineer, and you can move on to the next major. So that's kind of how we have that set up.
Great. All right, Jan, I think it's time to go, isn't it?
I'm so sorry. If anybody had additional questions, Emily, can you tell them how they could get a hold of you guys to get some questions answered?
Absolutely. Yes, you can reach out to our email address. I will type it into the chat, but it's ECS_student_services. And I'm going to type it in so you can copy and paste at baylor.edu. That's how you can get a hold of us after the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Thank all of you for attending this session. We hope you're enjoying Premier. We hope you enjoy all the rest of your sessions. And we're going to let you go so you can get to your next session. Thanks so much.
Thank you.